when we evaluate when we go to an apartment community prior to having put in an offer, or at least prior to that offer being accepted, then we look for things and we seek things out that we can't find on Google or through the financials. So it's a matter of what additional some sort of intangible information, or what additional on-the-ground information can we acquire to complete the picture. Because we've got a picture already drawn up, but it's incomplete because we haven't visited the property, and there might be some color or some other things we need to fill in. And when we visit the property, we first want to look for those big ticket items. And because that's not my primary skill set, or really even my secondary skill set, quite frankly, my dad is great at that, but that gene didn't get in me. The property management partner will tour it with us and identify the big ticket items if they need to be replaced. Now, usually, if it's an on-market deal, the information is fairly accurate from the broker, but you just can't count on it. If it's an off-market deal, then all bets are off. Go in thinking you need to replace everything and be pleasantly surprised if that's not the case when you go do the tour. So one is the big ticket items that you mentioned. And then two is you ideally have a tour with the property manager. And when you speak to the property manager, you're asking questions not that you have seen on the rent roll, like not what's your occupancy over the last 30 days. That's on the rent roll. I mean, you can ask it, but it's not that good of a question. A good question would be, tell me about your competition and what type of feedback are you getting from people who don't rent from you and they end up renting at the competition. Who is the competition? Because eventually you're going to go visit that competition. Also, the people who do rent, what are some of the reasons why they rent? Where do they work? What unit sizes are most appealing to them? What amenities, or when you show the apartment, what's the wow factor if there is one? What would you do different if you had a budget that was unlimited in order to attract more high quality residents? And you'll get this feedback from the person. You also should ask him or her how long they've worked at the property, because that will give you a frame of reference for their frame of reference. And once you ask those questions, you'll get a better idea of who's living there, what are they looking for, where do they work, and what the competition is doing to attract them, and what you're currently doing to attract them. And then you start getting the lay of the land for the on the ground stuff. Once you do that, then you want to, and we visit the surrounding area. Depends on your market, but we go 5-7 miles out and just visit the surrounding area around the property. So just the property is a dot in the middle of the circle, and then go 7-mile radius around it, and just see what's going on. Specifically, look for the closest Walmart. Look for the closest, and again, it depends on your market, right? Like Northeast people are like, Walmart? We don't have Walmart. When you look for the closest Walmart or Starbucks or Chipotle, you want to look for when it was built, because that also gives you a sense of path of progress. If it's a relatively new Chipotle or McDonald's, then you have a sense that these smart people in Fortune 500 companies have identified this area as a path of progress and growth, and they plunk down a Starbucks or whatever right there, and maybe there's something to it. I mean, certainly it's not the end-all be-all, but it's definitely an indicator of some sort of potential growth, because they've got a lot more research than we do.
Yeah, I think you were interviewing someone on your podcast before who was so basically the Starbucks strategy, and one of his strategies was, I look where the new Starbucks are going, and then I invest in that area because of the path of progress, and that they must know something I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're touring the property, you also want to talk to the residents, and the questions you ask are, what do you like about living here? Or that's actually that's assuming they do like living here. How do you like living here? That's the better question. How do you like living here? And they'll tell you. They'll say, straight up, I hate it. Blah 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 blah. Maintenance, or Theo's got these really thin windows and it makes me really cold. Yeah, or whatever it is, and you'll get a sense of the vibe, at least for this resident, and maybe ask a couple residents whenever you're there. That's the type of intel you can't get, or it's very hard to get, if you're not present, if you're not there. And the last thing you'll want to do when you visit your potential purchase is you want to visit the comps. You want to visit the competition. Actually, there's two things. You want to visit the comps, and you want to see what they're charging in rent. You already know what they're charging because you've done your due diligence prior to arriving, and you know the rents. You're simply you're going to the property to verify that they are charging these rents, and you get to see firsthand why they're charging them. What type of amenities does the property have? What's in the units? Are they renovated units? What type of renovation? What level of amenities do they have? Is it clean? Is it next to an area that doesn't look very safe? Those sort of things. And now the last thing that you want to do is you want to tour your property, your potential property, as though you're a resident. And you want to walk in the area, which will be usually the leasing center, as though you're a resident, and you got to see things. Okay, this is what I first experienced. And again, you're probably going to update this stuff, but just get a sense of the community as it is. And there are some things that even if you update it, they're not going to move. Like, for example, if it's an apartment community and there's a big old leasing center right up front, you're most likely not going to knock that down and build another leasing center somewhere else. So if there's pros or cons about that leasing center being right there up front, then make note of that. Or if the leasing center is in the back, or maybe it's right next to the highway when it could be in the back, or it couldn't be and it's stuck there, then those are all things to take note of. You don't want next to the highway to be really loud and not very peaceful. Although there are advantages to that too, so you just have to look at it from a case-by-case scenario. But then when you go to tour the property or tour the units, then when you go in the unit, you need to know what type of resident is going to be attracted to this unit, and is this the resident that you're seeking to attract assuming you do renovations, once you do renovations? Or if you're not doing renovations, is this going to attract your ideal resident? Some things I always look for, one is the closet. Mm-hmm. That's huge, because with some of our properties, our residents they choose to spend their money on cars and clothes and other items, and they have a whole lot of stuff. And having a large walk-in closet is a big amenity, and that's tough to change. Mm-hmm. It's tough to change if you buy the property and they've got really small closets. It's going to be a hard change to make. So if it already has these nice built-in closets, then that's great. Another is just the overall flow of the apartment, and what do you see first? How many bathrooms are there? Are they convenient to the bedroom? Is it an open layout? Is it closed off and boxy? That sort of thing. You'll find that these newer apartments that are being built in the last 2-3 years, they are smaller square footage-wise, generally speaking, but they feel more open because the architecture or the architects have evolved, and they've identified, hey, we can do, and the developers have identified, we can do smaller apartments as long as we make them feel more open, and it's a more cost effective for them to do it. So look at, if you're looking at a 1980s, 1970s apartment or older, look at how boxy and closed in it feels or how open it feels, because it's really about a feeling that the potential resident has when they visit the property and they can see themselves and their family living there. So those are all things you do when you visit a property.